Welcome to Wednesday Inspirational Book Lounge. I'm Anna Murby, your host. This season, we're reading Mephibosheth, A Twisted Life of Unexpected Grace and Mercy, the true story of a medically fragile child whose life became a living testimony of God's grace. This book invites us into a story of deep love and brokenness, revealing how God's mercy often shines brightest in the most fragile lives. Enjoy the episode.
Mephibosheth, A Twisted Life of Unexpected Grace and Mercy by Chaplain Aaron. Read by Hubert Carl. Chapter 5. What to Name the Baby. Psalms 139, verse 16a. Your eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. It was a Christmas that they remembered so well. They got a call in October that a little boy had been born to a single mom whose system was compromised with a cocktail of multiple drugs at her prenatal health check. Although counseling was the first proactive thought, her pregnancy was discovered mid-term. This was a little late for remedies. She had been taken into protective housing until full term was possible. A little boy was born at the local hospital with multiple ailments. Being born early, rather than full term, was the least of his difficulties. A health scan of the child found that this beautiful, clear-eyed infant had both problems breathing and a twisted body frame. The rheumatoid symptoms were more than just bronchial passages blocked from difficulties with aspiration. These were small birth defects that made it difficult for a normal child to breathe easily. The physical distortion necessitated more than just a simple health check. This boy needed a CT scan. This would show why the head itself was deformed in one specific spot on the top and back of the cranium. It turned out to be a sizable tumor that attached itself to the inside of the skull cap. It was a diagnostic that foretold a short lifespan, marked by discomfort, pain, and especially for one so small. Yet today was not a day of worry or sorrow for Paul and Dale. It was a day of excitement. It was a day for rejoicing, for this was the hope and desire they had looked forward to since they began the new ministry. This was a ministry of care for handicapped children. This was a love so deep that they chose to adopt each child that came into their care as far as remotely possible. Their reason for adoption was twofold. Their deep love inspired them to a lifelong commitment, and social services would allow them independent decisions without micromanagement. You see, today was the great day when the phone call came. It was near Christmas time when they received the call from the social worker. This boy had been in the hospital for over a month and a half, and was now stable enough to be placed in a care home facility for the purpose of intermediate care. This level of care would include the normal care of an infant coupled with specialized medical equipment and training for those extremely medically fragile infants. The Luce family was so overjoyed at this phone call. It was the best Christmas present ever. It was so delightful that even church friends had a baby shower for the arrival of this precious new life. The room was ready, complete with a medical crib, decorated with adorable stuffed animals and warm fleece blankets created and assembled with the kindest love any nurturing mother could give. Everyone stood at the door when the social worker arrived in her car with a small handful of folders that included every detail and permission necessary. The child arrived in another vehicle, a standard ambulance used for medical transport. The attending paramedics wanted to ensure that this awkward-shaped infant was ferried to his new home with health and safety. Paul and Dell met the paramedics at the end of a short driveway with smiles so broad that they lit up the December sky. There was laughter and tears of joy as the beautiful sight of this handsome, toothless face came into their arms. For them, the whole world stopped for a glorious minute, as the joy of their hearts was now in their embrace. Paul was very direct and polite when he recommended they go inside with their newborn infant. Dale was already cuddling and becoming acquainted with this new one who had come into their world. He was not the first. There had been a regular stream of foster children who were already there. so the home was already full of love and life. Dale and the social worker went directly to the room on the left-hand side where the boy would find his home and comfort. The social worker looked around the room and the home, dutifully taking mental notes of the condition of the facility, also known as someone's home. After short chit-chat and after this small 2-month-old boy had been tucked into his brand-new medical crib, it was time for the conversation over the file folders. The folders had already been reviewed, as they were compiled before the infant's birth, during his birth, and after his initial exam. They also included the placement records for the new home. The medical jacket included the details of what was known at the time and some investigations that were not yet clear. A short summary of the difficulties of the birth mom and her legal status was listed on a couple of pages. The doctors and pharmacists, with their suggested regime and routine, were detailed over multiple pages. A combination of medication, baby formulas, and supplements was advised and signed off by the doctor. These are extremely helpful notes, to the point that everyone in this line of care refers to the medical jacket as the primary file for all information. The review of the case for the baby boy was more nuts and bolts, how the agreed care would be performed, and when the next medical visit would be. The social worker thanked the family for their care and made her way out the door for her next appointment. Back inside, the excitement rang again. Everyone wanted to see, hold, and inquire about this brand new life that God had allowed to be created in this way. The first question naturally would be about the family hosting this child, not just foster care but FOS-adopt placement. This FOS-adopt placement is a process where child is taken from the mother into protective custody and given to a new family home for potential long-term acceptance and final legal adoption approval. Naturally, the excitement starts with what to call the baby. Many names were pitched, and many ideas were suggested by everyone in the room. Yet the real answer lay in the late-night conversations of this renewed young couple. At the age of 50, they chose an unusual yet perfectly understandable name for this child. They chose the middle name Carl because that was the name of Paul's father, a man who represented evangelistic excitement back in his days in Oregon. What a wonderful blessing to have heritage like that. Now, the first name was going to require a little bit of explanation. The name Mephibosheth was delightfully declared by the new mom and dad. What? What kind of name is that? This would become the resounding knee-jerk reaction to a blessed child who, through circumstances beyond his control, was given an opportunity to reach the medical community like none other. Mephibosheth was a name taken straight out of the Bible, the Old Testament, during the time of the famous King David, who wrote most of the book of Psalms. The explanation goes something like this. According to the Bible history, there was a king before David who had a son named Jonathan. Jonathan and the future King David were hardy, college-aged lads who had a wonderful friendship in Israel. They were the best of friends, so much so that they promised to care not just for each other, but for the other's children as well. If anything should happen to Jonathan, David swore that he would care for Jonathan's children. War came to their country, and with that war brought inevitable death. The battle cost the lives of the existing king and his son Jonathan. David and his group of renegade soldiers rallied the nation to regroup and reestablish Israel. With David as the new king, he began to look for Jonathan's family to fulfill his promise of kindness. What followed was an act of breathtaking mercy. During the former war that cost the king and his family their lives, a nurse swooped up a little baby named Mephibosheth and ran for safety. She tripped, and the toddler became lame in his feet for life. When David heard that the boy was alive, he sent for both the nurse and the young lad. Upon arrival, young Mephibosheth was quickly told of David's admiration for Jonathan and his family. This child in hiding was given direct words of unexpected mercy and grace. When David told him he would treat Mephibosheth as if he were his very own son, he was immediately bestowed a royal robe and a place in the castle to live for free. His life was protected and daily nourished at the banquet hall as a gift of love, not just for one's own children, but now for a new child who would be adopted and given the same wonderful nurturing care. He was no longer a stranger. He was now a son. Welcome home, Mephibosheth. You are no longer a stranger. You are our son, and beloved and so precious. Dale wept with uncontrollable joy while looking into the innocent face of her newest baby boy. I love you, Mephibosheth. I love you, son. You are so precious. God loves you, and we love you too. She said many loving and kind words as she tucked this uniquely shaped blessing into a wonderfully warm blanket. He had been carefully fed, gently cleaned, and now given heaps of love as he drifted off into a gentle sleep.
Thank you for joining us today. Make sure to come back next week for another installment of Mephibosheth, A Twisted Life of Unexpected Grace and Mercy.